Hey everybody, welcome to our downtown studios. John Ramdeen alongside Robin Black. UFC 207, 135 pounds is the name of the game. Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes, Cody Garbrandt, Dominic Cruz, TJ Dillashaw, John Lineker. And apparently there was a bunch of rumors leading into UFC 207 that it would be the last UFC broadcast for longtime play-by-play guy Mike Goldberg. And it seems like that is going to be the case. And we've heard a bunch of rumors that Jim Rome and Mario Lopez might be replacing...
Mario Lopez is not a play-by-play man.
Yeah.
And I think he started those rumors. The word is that the guy would love to do this kind of work. And I think he started those ones. Jim Rome sounds like a real discussion, but he is managed by the competitor of the owner of the UFC.
Right.
And we're looking at discussions of maybe in July, and no paperwork or offer has happened. So this is the dream that Dana had. I'm actually surprised, I really am, because there's so much misinformation in the world, and so often you see people leap to conclusions. So Dana said, oh man, I'd love to have this dream team of Joe Rogan, and I got someone in mind. People are like, Goldberg's out. And I'm like, nobody said that. And in fact, that week, Goldberg worked with Stan. So I'm like, Mike will be there. And you know, when you think about it, as soon as that, and like I said, there's so much misinformation everywhere you look, Google anything, and you'll find the real thing, at least we think it's real, and then a whole bunch of things that disagree with it. So I didn't actually believe it. But it's apparently true, they've confirmed it. So you right away you start thinking about all the great shows that Mike and Joe did together, all the great moments you had loving fighting, of the love you've developed for the sport and the people in it and all of it.
Of course.
And all of that was those guys' voices. You know, so I know the Twitter world that we live in, where people want to fund the one funny thing he said, or the 1 out of 100 things that he said wrong. This was the guy who was the soundtrack to our love of fighting. So look back at his great moments, please, and really appreciate it. And Mike, thank you very much for helping us all fall in love with fighting.
And that's what it comes down to, the fact that he's been in this game for so long. He really helped. He really tried his best to help elevate the sport and make sure that a new fan base jumped on board. And you could see how he did have that appeal to the fans. He had his buzzwords, and he really got everybody excited. Exactly, got everybody virtually identical. So it's one of those things that he was a part. He was a part of the fabric, and I think the casual fans certainly enjoyed his work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm dead serious. I'm feeling just slightly tearing up when I think about it. For real I am. Because you remember when you weren't an obsessive about fighting, but you just couldn't wait till Saturday night to see it. You know, you were starting to know who everybody was, whether for you that's UFC 6 or 50 or 90 or After Force, you were a tough noob, or you were a Fox noob, or whatever, you know, noob you were. This was what it sounded like.
Yeah.
This was what made us. It made us fall in love with, this was the culture, this was the identity, this was the flavor and the texture. Joe Rogan and Mike Goldberg. And we spent Saturday nights with them. So let's appreciate that. Let's look back at it, think of the great moments. You know, and Mike was always the coolest guy. You can't find anybody to say a bad word about him. We were commentating Pat Cote when he was outside of the UFC at the Bell Center in Montreal. And Mike's really good friends with Pat. And so he came down, and their wives are good friends. And Mike came and walked over to us with a beer in his hand and gave us advice on what to do and insight, and was just so supportive. And everybody who knows Mike Goldberg has a story like that about him. And you know, we forget about history often. We do it because the next minute we have a new video to watch, and the next second we have a new podcast to listen to, and there's 15 emails you got to open, and something just went crazy on Twitter. But history is a real important thing, and if you love fighting, you owe a debt to Mike Goldberg and Joe Rogan.
And we have a feeling this Friday night, Mike Goldberg and Joe Rogan are going to kick some serious ass at UFC 207.